Hello everyone, and welcome to a bonus episode. Doesn't really have nothing to do with trials, but I wanted to put it forward because it does touch on something that, if you look at my Darrell Brooks videos, it's fairly common, which is misinformation. And I wanted to explore this with you guys. You may know this guy. This guy name is Terrence Howard. He's an actor, and he's been making rounds around YouTube because he's presented some of his theories to Joe Rogan. But what I wanted to do is go back. This was him presenting his theories to that's one way to say them to Oxford University in the UK, I believe that's where Oxford is. Um, so we're gonna look at that. And the reason why I wanted to do this video, to this bonus, this extra video, is to thank my members, which we have right here, if you can see them. Those 5 person, Melvi, Christine, Bama, Robbie, and Nancy. They subscribe to the channel with a membership, which I thank them very much. I use those funds to improve the stream, like lights. Like I bought new lights, the camera. If you go back and look at my past videos and look at the camera then versus the camera now, there's a world of difference. So I use my thing that I want to get now is a new microphone, because this one I think it's dying. I had it for like 7 years or something like that. But if you guys have the means, first of all, and you want to support the channel that way, I have the information in the description. But with that, I was gonna say thank you guys for watching. Give a like, comment on the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed. And I just want to say that you're great, that you matter, and that I'm glad that you're here. Let's get into the video.
I'm Terrence Howard, and I'm so honored to have been invited here to speak at Oxford. Chris is so magnificent. He's been the kindest person, and he's really an angel for you guys because he can bring a ton of people here just with his kind words. You know, I didn't have any training as an actor, right? No? I grew up in a real bad part of Cleveland, Ohio. I managed to climb my way out of there by doing a fancy little thing called lying. Back in 19...
Okay, and I wanted to start with this part of the video, which is kind of, I edited down this because there's a lot more than that. But I wanted to leave this part in because this is setting up what he is. Like, he's right now he's telling you that he's willing to lie in order to get to the objective that he wants, which is something really that I don't believe that you have to say when you're presenting something to be taken seriously, because you set the precedent that you're willing to lie to get where you want to be.
1986, when I started working in this business, there was no thing called the internet. So when I put my first resume together, since I was trying to go and get jobs, I'd go and knock at doors and go and do castings, and nobody would take me seriously because I didn't have an agent and I didn't have a resume. So I put together a 3-page resume of all the projects that I wanted to do. And I put my name on them, starring in all these things, and that was my first resume. And it got me into the door, and as time went on over the last 35 years, I filled up that thing, so it's no more lies on my resume. It's all truth. But it wasn't lies then, it was what I was going to make happen. Now,
you need to get your story straight. Either they are lies or they are not lies. Like, I get what he wanted to do. Like, he did it. He hustled his way into the business to get where he wanted to be, and he apparently is a good actor. Like, he was nominated for an Oscar, so okay, good, I guess.
My vocation has been an actor, and I've loved that. I've been able to take care of my family as an actor, but that's never been my passion. I was an actor because it was like Jesus walking on water for tips, because he could do it. That's what he did. It was a natural thing for him.
And now he's comparing himself to Jesus. And you're gonna see with the things that we're about to hear from him that I think he takes that comparison very seriously.
I've always been an empath. Always been emotionally connected to everything. But the thing that I was most spiritually connected to, that was my driving force, was physics. It was wondering how the universe really came to be. And I fell in love with this thing called the flower of life. You guys know Da Vinci? Do you know what he spent most of his life trying to figure out? Who in here knows the flower of life? I want you guys to know about a 6,000-year-old secret.
Okay, and you see the title of the video. The title of the video is misinformation. And this is the first thing that Terrence Howard does. He tells you things as fact. But when you fact check them, like I did, because I saw this video and I was like, is what he's saying really true? And it turns out that it's half-truths, or the information that he's giving you is not the full picture. Like, he's about to present the flower of life. Here's the flower of life. Like, this is the actual like thing that is in Egypt, in the temple of Osiris. So it does exist. It does look like he's about to show us to us. But the thing is that the temple of Osiris was built in 1290 before Christ. And if you add up the 2024, I think this was in 2018. But if you add up, it comes out to 3,314 years roughly that those circles exist. So when she's telling you that she's 6,000 years old, that is not true, because you can fact check that. The Temple of Osiris wasn't built, so if it wasn't there, there was no symbol. So that's strike number one.
6,000 years, mankind has been trying to decipher this one little thing called the flower of life. Now, do you know the flower of life?
Now I know that.
Have you guys ever seen this before? Now, you know this is one of the oldest symbols in human history, right? Or do you not know? This symbol was found in the temple.
And I don't like that. I don't like that he keeps saying, like, do you know or do you not know? Like, how could you not know this? Like, I don't like the tone. And these people that they're college students. Like, they're really smart people to be studying in Oxford. So it seems like a little bit demeaning, I believe.
Of Osiris in Egypt, and it had been molecularly burned into the wall, and it's 6,000 years old. This same symbol has been found in the forbidden temples in China, sitting under the fufu dogs, and the foot on it, the flower of life, saying whoever controlled that flower of life controlled the universe. There were secrets in that flower of life that Da Vinci spent his whole life trying to uncover. There were secrets in that flower of life that Newton spent his whole life in secret trying to uncover. The same secrets that Pythagoras was desperately trying to uncover. But their problem was they kept seeing this in a two-dimensional space. They couldn't get it out of this two-dimensional frame, and as a result, they got stuck in this plane, a flat plane. Now, what Da Vinci and all of them wanted to do, they were trying to find a way to bring this flower to life, because what is inside of it? Well, apparently, there were secrets inside of it. Shapes, they got the Merkaba and all of those other things out of it. But they were misled by something I think called a straight line. You guys believe in straight lines?
Yes.
You believe there's straight lines in the universe?
Yes.
Well, let me hit you with something. All energy in the universe is expressed in what? It's in motion. If something is still, there's no energy.
That's another thing. That's the second strike. And there's going to be a lot of strikes, not going to be just 3. But that's something that he gets wrong. Like, he says that there's no energy if there's no movement. The potential energy exists. There's energy there. It's not only in motion. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Kinetic, right? All motion is expressed in what? You look at galaxies, are they expressed in straight lines? Expressed in vortices. All vortices are expressed in what? Waves. All waves are curved.
Sure.
Show me a straight line in nature.
All right, Terry, I'll take your word for it. Can you guys think of a straight line in nature? Like, off the top of when he said when I first heard this and saw this video, I was like, okay, that's kind of easy to find. And the first thing that came to mind was this. It's a honeycomb. Like, if, as you can see, there's straight lines, there's horizontal lines. The whole panel has 6 horizontal lines. 5? 6 horizontal lines that make a shape. And I'm sure there's more of the kind of this example, but this was the first that came to mind. So he's trying to sell you the idea there's using fancy words and galaxies and stuff to convince you that there's no straight lines. When I just googled this and it was right there. There's some straight lines in nature.
Show me where the platonic solids come from. Where do they have their foundations in our universe? Are there any straight lines?
Yes.
If you look at anything, there are no straight lines. That's been the mistake. We've been looking at these straight lines, this Euclidean way of thinking, and missing the curvature of nature. So here we are.
And you see that he tries to use big words like Euclidean. I never heard that word before, but I'm sure it means something. But he's telling you all these words, all these definitions that he has to try to convince you of his scam. It's kind of like the way that I see it. And that's what is usually called a word salad, where you just say stuff to make it seem right, but it's actually not right.
Back with the curvature of nature. And you have all these little pieces. Now, this has always been an information system. So compare some of these points. Take a point here and say, well, what's the space in between all of these things? Now, they've said that all the in-between spaces, if this is the Earth and this is the moon right here, all this in-between space is filled with what? A void. There's nothing in the void. Well, I found that there is something in the void. The elementary fundamental particles that they've been searching for at the CERN collider, the Hadron Collider in CERN, I found that their energy signatures matched perfectly to some of the pieces that I was able to pull out of here. What I've done is I've figured out about 7 different elementary particles, fundamental particles. And then there were secondary generational particles that seemed to occur. And when these things began to build up more and more, they began to create their own systems. And these systems is what I brought to Oxford because I would like for you guys to examine them.
This is another thing that Terry wants. It's like Terence wants to like come up with all these ideas in his head and then bring them to someone actually smart. I'm not saying that he's dumb, but he's trying to actually someone who knows about this kind of stuff, and they prove what he has to say. But he's saying that he discovered 7 particles, like 7 fundamental particles of the system. Like, do you think that the entire, if there were some validity to this, the entire scientific world will be on top of this? And no one is. Like, no one is calling Terrence Howard and be like, bro, what you have? Let's do this together. Let's win the Nobel Prize 7 times. So that's when you start thinking, maybe there's nothing to it. And I'm just a guy. Like I'm a student. I'm studying engineering in college. And the way that Terrence had an education, that he dropped out of chemical engineering. So he doesn't have any formal, like, actual chemical, like, physics formation. So I don't know. I don't believe him, is what I'm saying.
Put them to test, because I bet you will find all the fundamental particles that they've been looking for in the unified theory of the universe. It's a big statement, but I've got a lot of stuff to back it up if given the opportunity to do so. But the flower of life has been opened, and when we get an opportunity, I'd love to show you some of these things. But all of these wave conjugations, all of these states of matter, all of these things, it's time for that to be changed now. We have changed all of our buildings to be aerodynamic. Our airplanes are no longer based on a two-dimensional Euclidean way of life, but our math is still based on a two-dimensional way. And I think in order for us to reach the future, we have to examine that. Do you guys know about loops in math? Do you believe in loops?
Okay, and all that build-up came to this moment, because this is what Terence wants to do. He wants to redefine math to his system. It's called Terrenomics or something like that. He wants to redefine that on one single premise, and that is 1 times 1 equals 2. But I'm gonna let him explain you that.
Do you know the square root of 2? Do you think that's a loop? Do you believe that the square root of 2 is the square root of 2? Yes or no? Hands up, no? Hello? Oh.
No one knows what you're talking about, Terry.
I want y'all to take out your phone for a minute then. We're gonna do one thing. Everybody got a phone? Put it on the calculator and turn it to the side so you can get all the long numbers out of it. Okay? Now I want you to put in 2 and square root it. 2, hit the square root, you'll get 1.414213562373095 ... right? Now I want you guys to do me a favor, cube it. It'll see right over there, it'll be x to the 3. Can y'all do it? Have you cubed it? It'll see 2.828, 4271, 2174, 6190. Now that makes sense. I want you guys to do me a favor, divide it by 2. Got that number? Cube it again. Divide it by 2, cube it again, and I want you to do that until the end of your lives. And that number will still come up with 2.828, 4271, 2174, 6190. Any other number that you, above 2, that you put in and you cube and you square, cube and square and divide by 2, by the 6th operation, it has moved into an exponential number that you can't even imagine. Any number below 2 that you do that same operation with, it will go into an exponentially small matter and number. This is what we call a loop. It is illogical, it doesn't make sense, and it does not make math make sense.
Okay, so I'm not a mathematician, like at all. I understand math at the same level that, I don't know, someone in college understands math. But someone recently, like I think last week or the past 2 weeks, a real guy, a real math guy, like with PhDs and stuff, confronted Terrence Howard with this, and he told him, this is wrong. What you're doing makes sense. Well, the whole loop thing, it makes sense, but you're just interpreting this into trying to get a gotcha moment. Like trying to confuse the audience. This is the same as when you tell someone, think of a number between 0 and 5. And then you ask him to multiply it, and then, oh, your number is 3. Or something like that. He's trying to do that with the audience to awe them, to make him feel like, oh my God, he knows what the first 10 numbers of the square root of 2 is. He must be onto something. But at the end, it's just a word salad. It's just him trying to sound smart while not saying smart things.
These are some things that I'm bringing to the fore and that I would like to question. I would like to audit the math, the world of mathematics, and I would like to audit how we view the Platonic solids, because I think the new wave conjugations will tell a better story of how our world works. I've spent 45 years searching these things out and trying to figure out what the universe really, how it really worked. And we've come to find that the universe, they are abandoning the standard model, the ideas of black holes and dark matter, for an electric model of the universe that is in response to the Birkeland currents and all these things. It's a better version, a better vision of how we should see the universe. That's That's how I see it, and I think it should be explored.
And again, what he's saying is that apparently the sun, the energy of the sun, doesn't come from the sun. It comes from sort of electric magnetic stuff that he thinks that exists. Like, he doesn't believe that the sun is just a ball of nuclear fusion irradiating heat. He believes that it needs to come from somewhere else for some reason, even though the whole community believes otherwise. So, and I guess the point that I want to make when we're roughly at the halfway is that it's okay to be curious. It's okay to question things. But when you have a platform like Terrence Howard, which is a really big actor if you, in the whole scheme of things, he has an audience that's gonna believe all this stuff. Like, he convinced, I guess, this guy that is sitting beside him, that he had something that he needed to say in this stage, and he's trying to come up with this. I kind of think of it like a conspiracy that everyone is wrong except him. That I don't think it's a good way to approach it.
So just to add some context to this, Terence and I have spent the afternoon together, and Terence has showed me a lot of this and explained to my feeble mind basically what he's theorizing. I thought the couple of things that you showed me that I thought were really good were how explaining the story about how originally the flower of life, everybody just followed the lines and didn't understand the space, and you have the quite good models in there.
Yes.
Of how they connect together and how you have managed to put it into a 3D shape rather than just people looking at 2D.
2D.
Perhaps you want to explain a little bit about that.
Yeah, the idea of, like one of the things I've been saying, the Euclidean mindset has kept us so locked away. Like, there's tons of paperwork of Da Vinci working on the flower of life and trying to unravel it. But every single existence, every single example, you see him making straight lines and trying to make these straight lines bend in, and therefore he was never able to open it up. Because the universe is curved, all space is curved. And as a result, what I was doing in trying to find these straight lines, I abandoned the idea of the straight line. The shortest distance between 2 points is curved space, because you cannot force your way straight through space. Even electricity, as it moves from a southern plane to a northern plane, it always goes northeast in its direction. And magnetism, as it expands out, it goes southwesterly. And that's the spin. That's how you always know whether it's magnetism or electricity. It's the spin. Is it northeast or is it southwest?
And again, I'm not a physicist, but that doesn't sound right. Like, that doesn't sound right that the electricity only goes one way. I don't think that's correct. If I have any physicists on my viewer base, let me know if that's correct.
But in trying to define curved matter, I'm so sorry, I get so distracted. Trying to define the spaces, it allowed me to see that all of these in between, what we have been dealing with is these petals. All of mankind have dealt with these petals, but it's these other shapes that we've ignored constantly. Well, those other shapes were the in-between spaces. They were the things that filled up the vacuum of space. And all these particles that I have, I think are the full proof of that, and it is also the full proof of the wave particle argument.
Yeah. Do you want to also explain a little bit about what your intention was in sort of bringing this up, and sort of because something you said was the next step is like, how do you apply this?
Well, here we are on this planet. Can I do that point? Our planet is moving away from our sun at 6 inches a year. You guys know that. 15 centimeters a year, our planet is pushing away from the sun.
I don't think that's correct. I mean, the planet, I guess it is. I did a little bit of research about this point, and it is drifting away, but it's really small. It's not 15 centimeters a year. I found that answer that there's a a website called Quora where you can ask any question and people can just randomly answer them. So I guess that's what he saw on in the internet. But I think in the other publication is mostly like half an inch. Like it's not even that noticeable.
So in less than 500 million years, our planet will be out of the Goldilocks zone. We'll be somewhere near where Mars is, somewhere halfway between there. So life will not be able to be sustained on this planet anymore. So if we're going to be able to sustain ourselves as a species, we have to become interstellar. Not just interplanetary, we have to become interstellar. But with approximations, you cannot become interstellar. You cannot become interstellar with a point that will take you all the way over here with a straight line when the actual event is taking place over here. When you're going 600 quadrillion miles, you can't make a mistake. You need precision. And that's what the math is about. These pieces predict the natural distribution of matter and the distribution of where you can find yourself in that space. And I'm confident behind it. For 40 years I've worked on this. And I think it's ready.
So I've sat also at lunch, basically trying to get my head around this, and also was very, very, very skeptical. And I put my hands up and say that. And one of the things that you mentioned was sort of about how this applies to, I think it was the electric sun model. And that's where it's a theory that suggests that the sun is powered from external forces rather than what is usually, rather than nuclear fusion, which is the general consensus among scientists. And the reason for that is because there's not a production there's no evidence to suggest that the byproduct neutrinos are there. And
the neutrinos
what Terence is trying to prove, I think, is that because the fact that you can't detect whether neutrinos are there or not, there must be another way in which they're powered. My argument to him is that to suggest that neutrinos don't exist, because we have a lot of evidence to not know that they're physically there, but a lot of the effects and how they interplay with other things, to suggest that they don't exist is not only to get rid of that small theory, but also quite a lot of other huge laws of physics.
Are they laws or are they ideas of physics?
Well, why don't you respond to that?
They are laws. Like they work. The thing about the laws of physics that we have right now is that they have something that's called predictability. They can predict stuff, and then you do the math, and when that stuff happens, it happens, as the way that you wrote it down. That's the reason why they call it laws. But what Terence wants to do here is to tell you, nah, that doesn't exist. That's not right. Because I don't see something, and that makes it wrong. So, and that's what he calls ideas of physics.
Talk about how a lot of people have that sort of narrow mindset. And you talked about identity.
Yeah, the identity element. And then the things that make our math works. Like if I said to you, what's 1 times 1?
Here we go.
What'd you say, 1?
Yes.
It equals 1? Mm-hmm. Now, what would Newton say is that?
I'm gonna hazard to guess that if I ask Isaac Newton what is 1 times 1, he will say 1.
Times an action. That's a reaction, right?
No.
Anybody in here that thinks 1 times 1 equals 1, then you give me 2 pounds and I'll give you a pound back. And we'll call that even, right?
Yes, because I will still have 1 coin. What is this example?
Because 1 times 1 equals 1.
Yes.
An unbalanced equation. What we need to do is, the first thing in math is you're supposed to have a balanced equation. 1 times 1 equaling 1 is an unbalanced equation. But the identity element, which is like the Jim Crow laws of the 60s, they say that anything multiplied by 1 becomes that same number as itself.
Yes.
Well, the laws of physics has to break down in order for that to take place. Action and reaction. For 1 times 1 to equal 1. In comparison to if I said, what's $1 times $1? Anybody know?
Okay, this is the most frustrating part of the video for me. Because he's trying to explain this money math. That I get it. I get what he's trying to say. Like he's about to try to do something that is not doable, like that is multiplying money times money, which doesn't make sense. He's trying to tell you that $1 times $1 is $2. And that's because if you physically have like $2 and you multiply this dollar for this dollar, how many dollars you have? Two. Physically, you have two. Yes, I get it. I get that part. But that's not how it works, Terry. If you multiply something times one, it means that you have one. If I say how many times of bottles of Coke I have in my hand, is one. One bottle of Coke in my hand. And then he says something about multiplying by 0. And that means if I don't have a Coke in my hand, how many Cokes do I have? 0. That's what it means. It's not that hard, Terry.
It's $1. Well, what's a dime times a dime, or 10 pence?
10 pence, yeah.
10 pence times 10 pence? That's a pound, right?
No.
10 pence times 10 pence? Is that right, honey?
No.
What about 100 pence times 100 pence? That's a pound times a pound, right? That's $100, ain't it?
No.
What about a quarter? What about 4 quarters times 4 quarters? That's $1, right?
Yeah, that's manipulation of mathematics, and that's not how it works in the real world. Because what he's trying to say is you have 4 coins, 4 quarters that makes $1, and then you multiply it by another 4 coins that makes $1. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 quarters is $4. Yes, that's correct, but that's not how we multiply money, Terry. I'm sorry, but you're just doing it wrong.
Pound, right? Well, that's $4.
No.
Now, all of these things are legal. The banks can say $1 times $1 is $1 and give you that. Or the banks can say to a friend, $1 times $1 is a quarter times a quarter. It's 4 quarters times 4 quarters, and give that person $4. They can say to another person, $1 times $1 is 100 pence times 100 pence. That person gets $100. So that money is generated. And this is all legal. Do you think it's not happening in the banks?
And here we go. Here's what he's trying to do. Here's the audience that he wants to gain. He tries to get a conspiracy theory about money so people can say, hey, you know what? He's right. They're stealing our money and giving more money to his friends. But that's not how it works, Terry. They cannot do that. There's a lot of oversight. And again, calculators don't work like that. But he's trying to say, do you guys think that this is not happening? It's not happening. I'm sorry.
This is what 1 times 1 equaling 1 has got us. This inconsistency of our monies and our economy is sitting in the balance. And the rest of our future is sitting in the balance because our science has been stunted as a result of the problems in mathematics, because math asks for the basic laws of physics to break down in order for 1 times 1 to equal 1. In order for 1 times 0 to equal nothing, laws of conservation of energy has to disappear. And math is the foundating laws of math is supposed to support the laws of physics. They are arm in arm. They cannot be in controversy with each other. So we need an audit on the Platonic solids. We need an audit on the square root of 2, and we need an audit on action and reaction. Or we either got to get rid of, we say 1 times 1 equals 1, and there's no action and reaction. One or the other. You can't have both.
Yes.
And until we make that change, we're in trouble. We're going to be stunted as a species. In physics, when 2 things are drawn to each other, it's because they are of similar charge. It's not.
No, this is another thing that he gets wrong. I stopped counting strikes, but let's say he got like 5 now. Opposites attract. That's what people say. In magnetism, opposites attract. You get a positive, you get a negative, they attract. If you put a positive with a positive, they don't attract. You put a negative with a negative, it doesn't attract. So he's wrong there.
Not positive, because they say negatives attract.
No.
But cold air drops down. Does it attract to the hot air rising up? No, it passes right by each other. Because negatives Opposites don't attract. It's positives that attract to each other. Two positives drawn to each other, two negatives discharge each other. So it's all about physics to me. It's all about chemistry, and it's...
Thank you for coming. I wanted to ask a question. You seem to be sitting on a wealth of knowledge and something that you've been working on for, how you put 40 years. I was going to ask, how are you living day-to-day life knowing that the rest of the world is doing it, quote unquote, incorrectly?
Well, it's been 40 years of me dancing on this thing. For 40 years, I was told I was wrong. For 40 years, I was told that, the platonic solids and all those were the solids. Yeah. You have to have faith in self. All of this, I can sit up here and tell you guys that, I'm the smartest man in the world. I figured out what Da Vinci and none of them could do. The truth is, you really want to know the truth?
Yes, please.
This may be crazier than the fiction. The truth is, I woke up inside my mother's womb at about 6 months of age. I woke up inside of there. Like, boom. I don't know what had happened. Maybe my mother went through some trauma or whatever. But I woke up and I was like, oh, God, I'm here. I'm here. Don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. This is truth. Don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. Just go by. Every once in a while, I would think about something, and this would come over. And I didn't know it was my hand. I thought it was a friend. I had my whole name for it. Inside that womb, you were conscious. You woke up, because with our son Kieran, when he was about...
Here, I'm sorry, Terry. I just don't buy that. Like, I can believe that he once dreamed that he woke up in the womb of her mom, and he had all this whole thing in his mind, and then he woke up and he was like, that was a memory, that wasn't a dream. Like, but what he's trying to say is that, I don't know if you guys ever seen the movie Baby Geniuses, where as soon as you're born with all the knowledge of the universe, and then you lose it at some point when you start talking. Like, that's the plot that he's trying to convey here. So I'm sorry, but I don't buy it.
My wife was 6 months pregnant. We would put the light on her stomach, and he would follow it and push on it. And then we'd put the music, and we'd put it all the way over to the other side, and he would crawl all the way over to the other side of the stomach and push at the light with the music. So what I'm saying to you, you are conscious inside the womb, but we have no common frame of reference. But I remembered, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, because I knew I'd been here. Don't forget. You know what I didn't want to forget? This flower of life. Because apparently I'd been interested in it at a given time. And I came out and I was born. The first thing I thought about when I was 5 years old, I was obsessed with bubbles. I was like, why does a bubble take the shape of a ball? Why not a square or a triangle? And I would go and try and make square or triangular bubbles. And we could never do it, because it turns out everything expands as a sphere and everything contracts in geometric form. You drop a pebble into the pond, it expands in a perfect sphere unless there's something in the way. The moment it hits the edge of the shore and starts to come back, it's the contracting waves that hit the expanding waves that creates the initial geometries. Everything expands as a sphere, everything contracts in geometry and fits, basically.
And to this, I want to say this is the most sincere that I see him in the whole presentation. Is that I'm really glad that he, at 5 years old, had that curiosity of how things work. I think that's great. Like, I used to work at a children's museum, and that was one of the things that you wanted to convey to them. I was in charge of the exhibitions. So what we wanted to do is allow the kid to discover that curiosity about something, and then run with it and do a career with it, or at least get interested in other stuff. And that's great. That's what he's saying here, and that's awesome. But he took it to a level that I think that he's doing what he said at the beginning. He's lying in order to get his objective.
Thank you so much. I've always been interested in acting, so it's pretty cool to be in the presence of an actor. But my question actually has to do with your numbers theory. So if by your logic you say 1 times 1 equals 2, are you insinuating that 1 times 0 then equals 1?
Equals 1. Well, that's what we were saying with the identity principle, the identity property. It says that 1 times nothing equals nothing. Something, so now you have the laws of physics have to now adjust because something just disappeared.
No, multiplying by 0 means that you never had it. Like, how many bottles of Coke do I have on my hand? 0. Bottles of Coke times 0 means there's 0. That's the easiest way that I can think of explaining that.
Conservation of energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed. So if 1 times 0 equals 0, then what happened to the energy of the 1? Isn't that the same problem that Stephen Hawkins were talking about with the event horizon and the information going in and still being present? That conflict that was started? Well, that's because of the math. The principles in the math are not founded on truth. It's not founded on substance. The identity principle, anything times 0 is 0, and anything times 1 is 1. Where is that number? Where is that exemplified in nature?
Again,
or in universal phenomena?
I can tell you right now, like, how many bottles of Coke, if I don't have any bottles of Coke in my hand, how many bottles do I have? 0. If I have 1 bottle of Coke in my hand, how many bottles of Coke do I have? 1. 1 times 1, 1 times 0. I don't know how that goes over his head.
Is it? Do you see that?
Yeah.
So then, are you saying that 1 times 5 would be 6?
Yes. Well, what does it say in the associative and commutative thing?
So you're
if A and B
proposing-
are positive integers, it says if A and B are positive integers, A is to be added to itself as many times as is indicated by units in B.
Yeah.
So you're not...
Like he just said what it means right there. How can it not know? He just said what it means. He contradicted himself there.
proposing an audit. You're proposing like a
well, I'm not the first one
reconstruction
to
of
say
the way
we
we
need to do
understand
this.
math.
You know what's interesting? In 1856, a man from Liverpool named Richard Dover Statter challenged the Dewey Decimal System and said that it was wrong, and created an entirely new system to show how it can be brought into correction. So I'm not the first person to state this. It's a number of people did it, but look up Richard Dover Statter. Try and find him. You won't find him because he's been erased from history almost. But what is the thing called, honey?
It's called the decimal something.
Dewey Decimal System as a
Duodecimal.
whole. The Dewey Decimal System as a whole. And you will see that we are headed to, the Titanic is headed to an iceberg over there with our numbers. If we don't make a change soon, we're going to crash as a species.
Again, fear-mongering to people are not going to make them more likely to follow your cause, Terry.
Because our math needs to work in order for our science and our future to develop.
Sorry, one last question. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead. Go.
Do you think it's do you think that the reason that we have like economic crises, for example, is because we are not understanding our numbers correctly according to your theory?
Well, I think we have an economic problem because we are the only creatures in this universe that use currency. There are no other creatures that use currency in order to exist. Why is it that we chose this strange thing that isn't even real? Other creatures, they drink water, they eat fruit, they eat other animals.
Yes, you hit it in the head right there, Terry. They eat other animals. How do you think that we will be getting stuff if we didn't come up with currency? People will be just taking things out of each other. That's why we invented a civilized way of trading goods and services. That's why. We are not animals in that way.
We exchange with currency.
Yeah.
And our system of exchanging with currency is flawed because of greed. There's not like if 1 times 1 equals 2, we've got an equilibrium of balance. 1 times 1 equals 1, you've got loss. When 1 times 1 equals 3 or more, you're talking about over unity and supersymmetry. And that's how you get the universe to work for you. Instead of using just the solar voltaics off of it, you also use the piezoelectric effects of it. You use other things to make greater unity.
Again, do you hear all that? He just came up with random terms that I don't believe they're correctly put to sound smart, to try to sell you his idea. He just word salad.
But 1 times 1 equaling 1, when it could also equal a pound times a pound equaling a pound, when it could also equal $4 or $10 or $100, does that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
Do you think the banks are abusing that? What's a quarter times a quarter? If I ask anybody in this room, what's a quarter times a quarter? That's 25 times 25. The computer will the calculator will tell you 6.25 cents. But we know 25 pence times 25 pence is 625 pence. That's 6 pounds and 25 pence, but the computer or the banks only have to give you 6.25 cents reference for it. Or let's say you put a dime times a dime. Go ahead, let me get this out. Say you take a dime times a dime. You put that in your calculator, it says 1 cent. 0.10 times 0.10 is 1 cent. But we know a dime times a dime is a whole dollar. But the banks gives us money based on that evaluation. Is that fair? And I might get shot about talking about this right now, but I've got a book coming out called Does a dollar times a dollar equal a dollar, or does a dollar times a dollar equal $2? And in the
Horrible name for a book, by the way.
process, not only do I explain the death of the Platonic solids, but I also introduce the new Terrian wave conjugations that replace this Euclidean way of life and gives us a 3-dimensional way of seeing the world. That's what I'm saying. Do you want to see the world in 2D or do you want to see it in 3D?
Thank you.
Because our math right now is 2D. Our math is black and white and stick figures. I want the world in multicolor, spectral vision. Strong energy too, man, but...
You said that a dollar times a dollar is $2?
Huh?
You said that, say, a pound times a pound is 2 pounds?
A pound times a pound should be 2 pounds.
Yeah.
If action
but
times
when
action,
you multiply those two things together, you get a pound squared.
a pound squared, yeah.
That the unit gets squared as well.
1 squared. Say that again. Will you use the mic? So I can hear you.
So you're saying 1 pound times 1 pound is equal to 2 pounds. But it's 1 pound squared, which doesn't make any sense because you've got a squared unit.
Squared. 1 pound squared.
Can you divide pounds?
Yes.
Can you divide money? If you can divide it, you can multiply it. What, a pound times a pound?
Oh, I love this person. I love her. She's gonna say something right now later, but they're actually like they're challenging his theory. Like they're actually using makes common sense to be like, do you know what? I don't believe that you are correct.
What, a pound squared? 2 pounds? That 2 pound, 1 squared. Well, you know, it's funny. I actually patented 1 squared. All these things
You cannot patent formulas.
that I showed you guys, I've patented all these things. You know why I patented them? Because in 1926, a man named Walter Russell wrote a book called The Universal One, and in it he introduced an entirely new periodic table. And there he introduced the 2 heavy water elements, and then plutonium and deuterium. Both of those, all 4 of those elements that had never been discovered. He sent out to 800 different universities in his book. 2 years later, he watched as other people came and got Nobel Prizes for his work.
Again, this paranoia and, you know, conspiracy theories, it's really typical of someone who is just, I don't know how to say it, but it doesn't seem right to me. He just wants to be recognized by something, and he's doing everything he can to get people on his side.
Why? Because he didn't patent it. He didn't copyright it. So I copywrote all these things and patented all these things before bringing them to you. They are true, and I think there's some value to them. I don't know why I said that.
And if anyone knows about sovereign citizens and all that stuff, you know that they want everything notarized, because they believe that if something is notarized, it means that it's legit, and that's not how it works. I think it's the same with Terry here. He tries to say that if he patents something, that means that it's correct, but that's not how it works.
Did I?
I think they're thinking that the entire money system is off, or we're just thinking the decimal system.
Yeah, it's the decimal system that's off. The money is, there's nothing wrong with the money, but how we deal with the money. But if you can divide money, you can multiply it. It works hand in hand.
Yes, but not like that.
Okay, or you can't see that. You can't see dividing
Well,
money.
it's a matter of definition. If you define, it's a matter of definition. A pound squared is not a unit defined.
A pound squared.
Yeah.
If you multiply by mathematical convention, if you multiply 1 pound by 1 pound, same as if you multiply 1 meter by 1 meter, it should be 1 pound squared or 1 square meter.
It becomes 2. Why does it become 1 pound squared is 2, isn't
No, 1 pound squared is 1.
it? Now, if you look at remember what I just said about the associative and the commutative laws. It says A is to be added to itself as many times as its units in B. And the only thing that prevents that is the identity element that sits up and says, no, the Jim Crow law sits. Black people sit in the back of the bus because that's what the law says.
And now he's trying to compare laws of man with laws of nature and math. It's not the same. Laws of man doesn't make sense sometimes. And yes, there was segregation back then, but that wasn't because of the law of nature. It was because the human wanted it that way at that time.
Without even having a foundation for it. 1 times any number is that number without a foundation, with no principle. It just says it.
But if you go by your logic and you say 1 times 1 is 2, 1 times 2 is 3, and then how would you define 2 times 4? Is that's just...
That stays, all that remains the same. Anything with 1, just add 1. The first rule of multiplication...
Okay, then where's the difference between addition and multiplication?
Well, multiplication is what? Exaggerated addition.
He's raising his voice now. Like she's not taking his explanations because they don't make any sense, but she is challenging him in a real, like, intellectual level. And now he's raising his voice and trying to say all this stuff to try to win.
Isn't it?
But isn't it a matter of mathematical convention?
What is?
If it was defined in the beginning, it could have been defined differently, but logical, it makes the
Use
most
the
sense.
mic, darling.
Sorry. Is it a matter of mathematical convention? If you define beforehand that something, like, logically, it makes the most sense that 1 times 1, if you have 1 laptop, 1 times a laptop is 1 laptop, that makes more sense than you say it's 2 laptops.
Well, now if you say...
And then that's...
See, I love that. I love this girl. It's like she put it in the real world. That's what Terry was saying. Show me where this is happening in real world. And she was like, 1 times a laptop, if it's a laptop. It cannot be 2 laptops. So answer that.
Where the mathematical convention comes in. And that's like most, like, large part of math is convention. It's how it has been defined. It's a matter of definition.
And it's wonderful. The convention is all right if the material and the information being shared in the convention is true. But when you're talking about dogma being added in, with that thing that I showed you, did you look at the square root of 2? Do you think that that's a loop, that's a natural thing?
Yes.
With the square root of 2? Did you believe that?
It's a trick.
It's the same with pi. There's like not a mathematical.
No, it's not the same though. It's not the same with pi. What we just did, we multiplied it, we cubed the number, and then we divided it by 2, and we cubed it again and divided it by 2.
He's getting irritated. Like you can hear it in his voice and his mannerism. He's getting irritated about she not accepting his thesis.
And we did that a number of times, and that number still remained the same exact number, which we know cannot happen. It's right there, and that's what they say is the difference between, that's what they say allows 1 times 1 to equal 1, because 1, 1.414213562373095 ... is the square root of 2. But we know that that's not the case, because it's illogical. That loop makes it invalid.
Thank you very much for talking to us. And also, your view on consciousness and energy sounds very similar to what Dr. Robert Lanza proposes in biocentrism. So that may be of interest to you if you haven't read that text. But about 5 years ago, you spoke about harmonic wave sequencing and how that could
harmonic wave resequencing.
Resequencing. And how that could possibly solve cancer or genetic ailments within the next 5 years. I think that was about 5 years ago. So is there much progress on that? And how do you propose that this resequencing would actually recode people's genetics in order to prevent them from getting these ailments?
Simple.
Okay, so this guy is bringing up, is asking Terry for receipts, because like he likes to talk. He likes to say all this stuff is going to change the world, all this stuff is going to happen. And he said that 5 years ago, he said that in 5 years, like now, then, we will have a way to cure cancer and all these diseases. And he's been like, you know what? It's time. Where is it? And as far as I know, it's 6 years from this point of time where he is right now, and that still hasn't come up yet.
Our DNA is made up of what? 5 elements, right? Hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, and oxygen. Do you know how they're arranged? The phosphorus sits right here in the middle, and you've got 4 oxygen atoms surrounding it. Then there's another phosphorus, 2 more oxygen atoms. Now these are the legs of that double helix. These are the legs. Now the latter steps on it, they become the adenine, the guanine, the cytosine, and thymine, the ATCGs. It turns out hydrogen, they used to think that energy, the body transferred or understood the energy information through electricity. They're finding out it's through frequency. Well, guess what hydrogen sounds like? It's a key of E. Guess what? And it's the color yellow. That's what proper physics gets you to. Oxygen is a chartreuse, and it's the key of F over F sharp. Now they used to, like I said, information used to be thought about as just electrical information passing on. But I got a question for you. Have you ever been at a party with some of your friends you ain't seen in 10 years, but y'all was like 14, you hung out and there's a song that came on and you was like, ah, and everybody got up and was live at that moment. Now say 10 years later you got a friend with you. He's a good guy, but he wasn't there when me and my boys formed this. So when that song comes on, our DNA tightens. There's a particular song, a scale in the genomes for each and every one of us. Now, when that song is played, when your particular prime resonant frequency is played, guess what happens? Your DNA celebrates and tightens. Everything else gets pushed out. Harmonic wave resequencing. The carbon is also the key of E and yellow. The nitrogen is G. And all these play a song. So say that the F over F sharps of the oxygen, the green, is only hitting at an F. Why? Because there's another frequency coming in from a generator over there. That's changing and causing it to change. So this F now hits the oxygen. And when it hits, the F hits the carbon, so instead of hitting as a F sharp, it hits as an F, so when it hits the carbon at an E, it doesn't hit it quite right, so the domino don't file right. So the next domino hits wrong. And so now we have malformation happening within our DNA because the frequencies are being pushed off. But when we hear our tone, we tighten back up. So yeah, I'm in the process of building the harmonic wave resequencer with another doctor who has been able to successfully cure AIDS and cancer. And it's well underway. But I wanted you guys to understand how that works. It's so simple. You do not need to tear the human body apart when all you can do is use frequency to bring it back to its normal space.
Yeah, so what he's saying is that he's going to invent a machine that resonates within your body and cures your DNA based on sound, which will be revolutionary. Like not needing chemo and all that stuff will be incredible and life-changing, but I don't think that's how it works at all. Like, I don't believe that you can transfer an element into other stuff. And this is what I mean when I put the title of this video. It's like the danger of misinformation. Like Terrence Howard may not mean it in a bad way. He will not. Maybe he doesn't mean it in something that he wants to help. He wants to develop something. He wants to make his name known for this. But the problem that he has is that he's pushing it as it was fact when he doesn't know that it's fact. He believes that it's fact. And it's really different between those two things. There's a world apart of those. I can believe whatever I want. But if it's provable that what I'm saying is not correct, then I need to go and look for other alternatives to do so. He has good intentions, is what I mean, but he's doing it in the wrong way. And you guys can go back and watch this video. I'm gonna put it on the description below. You can go watch his Joe Rogan interviews. You can see the response of Neil deGrasse Tyson to him. But one thing that I did is that I looked into this frequency of resequencing thing, and I found it. I found the tones, the song that he was talking about, and I have it right here. Give me 1 second. There we go. There you go. There you go. That's all you need to make your day better. All right. Hopefully you guys like this bonus video. Thank you so much to my members. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.